let's talk about one of last year's most fun adventure films, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Now, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves was on my watch list for last year. I just didn't get around to actually seeing it. I really regretted it then, and now as I finally watched the film on home media, physical media, I regret it even more because yes, unfortunately this film didn't perform as well as it should have, or as well as it actually deserved. It's a really fun film. It really reminds you of these classical just adventure films. It's not a big franchise, although I am pretty sure Paramount Pictures was hoping for it to be or turn into a huge franchise. You know, it's just one of these typical Sunday films that you can watch, you know, that you'll just have a lot of fun with, especially if you've got, you know, maybe kids, teenager-ish kids, let's say, not the younger kids, because this film, at least in Germany, it's got an age certificate of 12 years or above, PG-13 basically. Yeah, so, you know, but it definitely falls into that category. Had a lot of fun with this film, really enjoyed it. So if you've got the chance, I mean, as I saw it pop up on various places on the internet over the past year that you know, they can see that it's, at least it was critically well received, and it's also got a sort of developing almost cult-like popularity. You can tell that people like this film, you know, so people like to bring it up in conversation online as well. So hopefully, if it can enjoy enough success, you know, now with home media, etc., maybe we'll see a continuation, and now especially now that more people have seen it, maybe the next installation will be more successful, just like myself, you know, hopefully next time I will manage to go to the cinema and watch this kind of film. Now, if you are a real Dungeons & Dragons nerd, I feel the need to clarify that I myself have never actually played Dungeons & Dragons, as in, let's call it the board game or role-playing game or whatever you want to call it. I would like to think that I'm very familiar with the concept and its mechanics, because I do like to play when I play computer games, I also play role-playing games there, fantasy role-playing games, so I would like to think that I'm familiar with sort of the world and mechanics of how it works. You know, you've got various classes and what they all can do, and just how the whole thing works. But yes, no, never played it myself. I think I would enjoy doing it at some point. I just find the whole task daunting, and a lot of respect for especially the dungeon masters who come up with the stories and lead you through them and all these kind of things. Must be massive, must be a massive undertaking. I wouldn't even find the time to do that. Anyway, let's get to the plot of the film. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the board game per se, but I do find it kind of funny. I didn't know that Dungeons & Dragons was a board game made by Hasbro. I didn't know that specifically, but it seems so because when I looked up the film, it says based on Dungeons & Dragons by Hasbro. Okay, fine. And of course, I mean, in the film itself, you have Hasbro popping up, you know, in the introduction where you see all the producers, production companies, etc. You've got Hasbro popping up there as well. But it's not like, let's say, Jumanji, where we've got the actual board game in the film or something like that. It's just based on, well, just the worlds that you build with Dungeons & Dragons. So you've got a typical fantasy world, and you've got all these classes, you know, you've got warriors, you've got sorcerers, you've got obviously bad wizards, you've got our main character, for instance, he's a bard, you know, you've got all these kind of things. So we are in this world, we meet, our main character is Chris Pine, we are focused on him, I mean, this actor portraying him. Chris Pine plays this bard, his wife tragically dies, and his band of, well, I suppose you could call them warriors. His band of colleagues, let's call it, they're broken up when he and the second real main character of this film, played by Michelle Rodriguez, she's a sort of barbarian warrior type, so she's physically really strong. They're both imprisoned, right? They manage to get out of prison. This is how the film starts. So we're given their brief backstory and a sort of flashback retelling by Chris Pine's character. So you're caught up to speed within the first 5 minutes. They manage to get out of prison. He has a daughter that he wants to reunite with, and there's this one magical object that they really want, which would allow him to bring back his dead wife. So the plan is, go and get the daughter, resurrect the wife, be happy again. That's basically it. When he meets the daughter, he finds out that one from his former band of mischievous people, played by Hugh Grant, is now a lord of a big city called Neverwinter. And he basically has now more or less adopted the daughter and doesn't want to give her back, basically. And this is what the story is about. So we've got Chris Pine's character trying to win his daughter back. At the same time, first of all, they need a band of people, and they learn that the city itself, or rather Hugh Grant's character who's ruling over them, is not being very nice to neighbouring peoples, etc. We've got a tribe or a people of druids. One of them joins the band of warriors, played by Sophia Lillis, who I was happy to see. Last time I saw her was in the It films, which I really liked her in, so I was quite happy to see her here. She's a druid. She joins their cause because apparently, like I say, Neverwinter, they've been treating her people very badly. And so, yeah, that is obviously a way to convince her to join this quest. So they're trying to get the daughter back. At the same time, they learn that there's these games being hosted and a lot of treasure's going to be gathered, and that's obviously something as well, because you do have the honour among thieves appearing in the title itself, so obviously there's something about the treasure too. And yes, so we see various adventures. They go through all the lands that are there, all sorts of places. And this is actually one of the interesting things, that it's not confusing, but I'll come to that a bit later once we finish the plot. So they travel all over the place, gathering a few more people. You've got a sorcerer joining them or rejoining them. He used to be part of the band as well. He's played by Justice Smith, which I found very funny because I've recently been playing The Quarry, which is a computer game, and he pops up in there as well, so it's really fun when you see people in films that you've just recently seen in games. Yeah, so they've got a strong sorcerer as well. Then there's this real paladin. They do actually describe him as a paladin in the film as well. He's played by Regé-Jean Page, who you might know from Bridgerton, the first series at least. And yeah, so they've got all sorts of people travel through all these lands, and like I said, they're trying to reclaim not only Chris Pine's character's daughter, but they find out that Hugh Grant, in his role now as the Lord of Neverwinter, has been getting up to really bad things, so they want to set the record straight. That's what the film is about. Yeah, it's a very basic adventure story in that sense. There's nothing really surprising here. It is a large world, and we see a lot of going to all sorts of places. The interesting thing is it's not confusing, because this could easily be confusing, especially when you think of that people, might decry things like Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, it's for nerds, and so they do a lot of nerdy things, and it might be easy to sort of be very confused and everything to be very convoluted. That's not the case at all. The character introductions, they're spaced out. It reminded me a lot about Rebel Moon, right? But done correctly. Where Rebel Moon is like, travel to this place, grab a character, travel to the next place, grab another character, and that's really it. Here, it all comes together more naturally, I feel. It also helps that the people here, at least most of them, were previously part of the band of merry people, warriors, whatever you want to call them. It's handled a lot better and a lot less confusing. I really like that, and yeah, like I say, it's not confusing. My wife, for instance, who's not big on talking about films, it's one of the reasons I started this channel, because it's not really, when you're really enthusiastic about talking about films and you turn to your significant other and her comment is, that was a film, or that was a good film, and that's it, it's a bit disappointing. But in this case, that is something that she pointed out to me, that she, because I explained to her what Dungeons and Dragons is about, and although she plays some role-playing games, she expected to be very confused, that the plot and the characters and everything would be massively confusing. She said that wasn't the case at all. Even although we had a lot of locations, it was very easy to follow the whole story. So in that sense, the writers definitely achieved what they set out to do. Might as well mention them. Two of them were actually the directors as well. You have Jonathan Goldstein, then John Francis Daly, and one person joined them as a writer, which was Michael Giglio. If I mispronounced any of those names, I'm terribly sorry. So they definitely did a good job. The characters are really likeable, the humour is great, so yeah, the whole thing is a really fun ride. Love the CGI. I mean, it did have a big budget. You can definitely see that on the screen. A lot of locations, but they all look magnificent. Really like the look of everything. But yes, I would say the characters, you know, without them working, the chemistry is just wonderful between all of them. It really drives the whole film and you just want to see them go on adventures, which is why I hope that, like I say, at least with home media, this film will be popular enough to finally, ultimately, get them a sequel, because I feel they deserve it, because this is really a callback to very classical adventure stories that you just love. You know, this is the typical popcorn flick. It's just fun watching on screen. It looks great. There's a lot to laugh about. And like I say, all the characters, I like them all. You know, there's not a single character in here that I didn't like, whether good or bad. You know, I felt that they were all written really well. And yes, you've got a lot of laugh out loud scenes in this film, which I found was great. You know, thinking back to other films of something like The Fall Guy, where I expected to have more laugh out loud moments, they didn't have it. This film here, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, definitely has those, so it's a very high recommendation from me, if you can catch it somewhere. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about anything you want to say about the film or the actual Dungeons and Dragons game. You know, anything that you would like to highlight that you found was great, or a great interpretation in this film or so. Any other typical adventure films you want to suggest, put them down in the comments below as well. I thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.